Okay, here we are, the last UFC pay-per-view of the year. UFC 282, Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev. I'm not gonna lie, bit of a stinker of a card. Not very many fights to really get me really excited. The main card obviously consists of a few decent fights. You got Paddy the Baddy, you got Jared Gordon, you got Ponzinibbio versus Morono, you got Darren Till versus Dricus du Plessis. You know, there's a lot of interesting fights, but nothing like these fights. I feel like are pretty much like fight night undercards. Joaquin Phoenix and Joaquin Phoenix, Joaquin Buckley and Chris Curtis are definitely the I think for me the only fight in the prelim, which I have some sort of interest in. Rosenstrike fighting as well, Shabazian as well. There's some good fights, but nothing that sticks out, to be honest. So what I want to do, I'm going to analyse 3 of these fights. To be honest, there's only really 2 that kind of take my fancy, and that's the main event, and it's Darren Till versus du Plessis. So, but I'm going to go for the main event, co-main event, and the middleweight bout between Till and du Plessis. So, starting off with the middleweight bout between Darren Till and Dricus du Plessis. Darren Till at a very, very pivotal stage in his career now. I don't think he can really afford. I don't want to say he can't afford to lose any more fights, because he can do, but I just don't know really where he could go if he loses this fight. If you actually look at his record, Darren Till's record is actually a lot more sketchy than you actually think. He's 18-4-1, and he has lost. I want to say his last 3 fights. He lost obviously Derek Brunson, he lost to Robert Whittaker, and obviously he beat Calvin Gaston. So actually, I tell like it's his last 2 fights, and he's lost. To be fair, so yeah, it's Darren Till's 29, so it's not as if he's old, but the more I watch him, it's almost as if the worse he gets, and I feel like they kind of stitched him up a little bit, UFC, when they had him fight Tyron Woodley, because I never felt at all that that Darren Till was ever ready for that fight, and showed it because he got destroyed in 2 rounds, and then you saw the next fight, Kamaru Usman, who was ready for that, showed what a real kind of towel challenger is, and I think he hadn't really fought anybody. He fought Wonderboy Till up until that point, but again, he hasn't really. It just feels as if he hasn't at all fulfilled that potential, and he could still do it. Don't get twisted, but I don't know. It just feels like the fight's almost been gone out of him and Chimaev obviously training together. And don't get me wrong, I know Chimaev is a beast, but I just feel like I know training partners are important in MMA, but I just don't really see. Like, you see guys like Artem Lobov and Conor McGregor. You see, I don't know, people, like Khabib and Dan Ige train together. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be as committed as those other guys. So yeah, and with Dricus du Plessis, I think this really isn't the fight that I think is ideal for Darren Till. I think they kind of need, if they want to get him back in the win column, I think you're better off kind of giving him a pick'em fight where it's quite easy for Till to get him. But I don't know, it's a bit of an interesting matchup, this one. With du Plessis, I think his striking's relatively decent, but I think the one thing that makes this fight a bit sketchy for Till is du Plessis is very strong and his grappling is very, very good, but it's one of those where if I look at Darren Till's tape, Darren Till usually has a significant reach over most of his opponents. This is one time where he actually hasn't. Du Plessis has a 76-inch reach advantage, whereas Darren Till's got 74.5. And height-wise, du Plessis is bigger, so there is a factor. Like with Till, he usually tries to stay on the outside just for 1-2s, but here it's a bit of a risky one. Du Plessis only lost twice in his career, and he's no joke, Dricus Du Plessis. He's very, very dangerous, and I think this is a terrible fight for Darren Till. Stylistically, like I said, his striking's very solid. Du Plessis is not amazing, but it's solid enough, and his submissions are very good. His grappling's good, and he's very, very strong and very big for the weight, I feel. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where I don't know if he has anything that will shut down until he's quite. What you see is what you get with Du Plessis, so I don't know if it will be an easy fight or anything that really shocks Darren Till, to be honest, in there. But I do think this is a very solid challenge, and I think it's not a good fight at all for him, for Darren Till. But I don't know, I go back and forth because it's not an easy fight, and Du Plessis is a dog in there. But I don't know, there's nothing really that he has that I think Darren Till is really not seen before, and I, like I said before, I do think that it's a horrible fight for Darren Till because he needs an easy fight, and this is not that. But yeah, I don't know. In my prediction, though, getting to the fight, I do think Du Plessis is good, but I think he's sloppy, he does make mistakes, and I actually think Darren Till will knock him out in this one. And I picked Darren Till against Brunson, and he lost that fight. Whitaker, I thought he would lose, and even Gastelum, I thought would beat him, to be fair. So I'm quite 50-50 on Darren Till in certain fights, but in this one, I think he will. Du Plessis, his stance, he does keep the guard up quite well, but he naturally, with a lot of MMA fights, they don't have that natural inkling to keep their hands up, and I think I can just see Du Plessis overreaching, and yes, Darren Till, he has a reach faction with Darren Till, but I think Darren Till will be able to time him coming in and knock him and hit him with the left hand, and then end up landing enough shots, landing a knee, flooring Du Plessis and finishing off, and hopefully Darren Till then can get back on the win column, because if he loses this, it's long. I don't really see what more he can what way he can go from this, but an interesting fight nonetheless. Getting in then to the co-main event, Jared Gordon versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. An interesting fight, this one, to be honest. Not Paddy the Baddy obviously has had the over hype coming into the UFC. He's shown that he's certainly capable on the ground. His striking is poor. I don't really think he's looked that fantastic, to be completely honest with you. I think his main thing was the submissions, and I think his striking, a lot of people like to compare these guys like Paddy to Conor McGregor, but the only difference with Conor McGregor, and I always say this, people tend to seem to almost want to, I don't know, almost forget what Conor McGregor was. Conor McGregor was extremely talented as a fighter and could find your chin from damn near anywhere. Paddy doesn't have anything then that really stands out to me. And he will get knocked out as soon as he does fight the opponents, I do feel. I don't think he's at a level where he can... Well, not at this time. Maybe he can in the future, but he's not nowhere near the level where he can fight for a championship or win a belt. You know, you stick him in with any... Forget the likes of Poirier and these type of guys. I think you stick him in there with anyone like a Sarukian or anybody, just somebody who's got that dog in him, and I think he's going to really struggle in there. And I think Gordon, not particularly the greatest, very sloppy on the feet, to be honest with you, but I don't know, he certainly isn't like a slouch in there. I think he definitely has I don't know, it's an interesting skill set, Jared Gordon. He doesn't traditionally finish a lot of people, but I do feel with this fight, I think Paddy's naturally going up in competition, and Jared Gordon very good at kind of chains his striking, his wrestling to quite well, but again, nothing really stands out to me that much, and yeah, I don't really see I don't see much of a path to victory for Gordon in this one. Maybe he takes him down and avoids submission, but I just be shocked if that happens. On the feet, Paddy's nothing special, but neither is Gordon, and I think Paddy will get this one done via We'll say guillotine. I think Gordon will shoot and Paddy will catch him with a guillotine. I don't know if it'll be round 1 or round 2, but I think it will certainly come. And naturally, you will like to see Paddy go up in competition. Him and Elias Tuporia will go at each other. Maybe that could be a fight for him. I don't know, but I think Paddy though gets this one done, and interested to see where he goes next in his career. He's got his whole beef with Errol Juan at the moment. It's a very interesting to see where his career will go. But that's my thoughts on that one. And then the main event for now, the vacant light heavyweight bout, Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev. In the obviously the initial main event was Glover versus Jerry Prohaska 2, but obviously I think Prohaska got injured and Glover didn't want to take the fight for the vacant bout against one of these guys. So now we have Blachowicz and Ankalaev, and it's still a good main event, but I don't know. I would have preferred it to be to Yuri, but obviously he got the injury, and it's a very bad injury, one of the worst they said in UFC history. So naturally, it's good that he vacated the bout. I think he'd almost be forced to be fair. But an interesting fight this one though. Two guys who are very, very hard hitters, and Ankalaev has a weird reputation of almost of being a wrestler. I think the whole Dagestani thing kind of, but he's a lot more than that. I think Ankalaev, he's a very, very precise striker. He's very, very vicious on the feet, and this is a very dangerous fight, I think, for Blachowicz. I think his head kick, especially his left high kick, is deadly, and I think it's an interesting fight, this one, for Blachowicz. Blachowicz has shown some good strides. Obviously he lost the belt to Glover, which surprised me, to be honest, because I thought Jan would blow him out the water, but it shows not always a given in these fights. And I thought with the power of Blachowicz he'd be able to do something to Glover, but just wasn't able to for whatever reason. Obviously his last fight, he had that one versus Rakic, which was a brilliant fight, and unfortunately Rakic kind of, he didn't blow his knee out or something. I forget the fight. It felt like ages ago, that fight, but it's only May. But yeah, Blachowicz now though, I think they were talking about him getting the shot at the title regardless, and I think it's a good one though for him. I think personally for Ankalaev, it's I won't say it's a big step up competition because he fought Santos before and fought Anthony Smith in his last 2 fights, so it's not a particularly massive thing. He's been relatively active, Ankalaev, as well, which I think is what you need as a mixed martial artist. And if you look, obviously, a lot of his fights, he also had the 2 fights against Kutalaba. One where they felt it was stopped prematurely, and then he had the crazy one where he lost to Paul Craig. So he's had a relatively good career thus far, but it's an interesting though how he'll do against this one. I think Blachowicz has been in there with some of the very best, whereas I don't think you can say that about Ankalaev. And Ankalaev, I think, will be champion one day, but for now, I think he needs maybe one. I don't know. I think Blachowicz is just a lot to handle. I wouldn't be surprised if Ankalaev does knock him out because these two are big hitters. But yeah, personally, I'm going for Jan Blachowicz in this one. I don't see much. Yes, Ankalaev could knock him out, but I feel like Blachowicz is smart enough. His fight IQ is very underrated, and I feel like he mixes his combinations together well. He loves the kick to the body, and I think naturally southpaw versus orthodox, the right hand, the right kick to the body, everything's always there open for you. So yeah, that's just why I think. But yeah, an interesting card. The last card of the year. Hoped we could have got better, but we've had some good cards. We had the MSG one with Adesanya Pereira. We had the Abu Dhabi one with Makhachev and Lara. Some great cards this year, and just my thoughts on UFC 282. And yeah, until next time.